It wasn't really until the 2000s when Louis said that he wanted to produce the all-time best lifters ever. And that's when he started looking.
Get the fuck up. Simon says, get the fuck up. Throw your hands in the sky.
I was the first guy to be recruited in. That was from outside of Columbus. I do believe Louis had 70 elite totals that have already were earned in the gym. I wasn't allowed to make the elite total board until I did it in a different weight class than I did before getting there. So I couldn't make the 500-pound bench club until I did it in a different weight class than before I got there. So that's kind of the rules of Westside that nobody knows about. So 50, 60, 70, whatever it was, elite lifters, all from basically the west side of Columbus without any type of recruiting, and they all got stronger. So I can sit here and say Westside works for everyone, because it did, and I didn't see it different. The same way I can say box squats work for everybody, because we never free squatted. The only time we free squatted was in a meet. Everything that we did in the gym was box squats, everything. So, and it worked for everybody. There was nobody it didn't work for. And this wasn't because we went to meets and squatted high. That came later. You know, where judging changed across the board for everybody, not just Westside, but during the early days, we had to compete with the same judges as everybody else, and everybody was judged to this, close to the same standard. It was never, there's never been a time everybody was judged exactly to the same standard as everybody else. But that's another one of those misconceptions that, you know, Westside always got, you know, shitty lifts passed, where you didn't get shitty lifts passed in the USPF. You know, it didn't happen. And then in the APF, if you know your history and you go back to some of the senior nationals, some of those senior nationals, 75% of the meets bombed out. So, you know, it was brutal. There was always corrections and then overcorrections and so forth. So the biggest takeaway I'm trying to get at here is Westside wasn't designed for geared lifting. It was designed for powerlifting. Later on, geared lifting had to be put into, or training the skill of the geared lifting had to be put into the training to be able to be better at geared lifting, because that's how we competed. And that I can't speak on, because that, while I was there, still wasn't perfected to any degree whatsoever. So it's, you know, it was later after that. And I still don't think, based upon what I'm told, that they use their gear more than maybe once every 4 weeks, but I could be wrong on that. So I don't know for sure. I know how I kind of work about it here. The recruiting, I kind of touched on that a little bit. One of the misconceptions is that Westside has always recruited, you know, the lifters that it has. In 90, as I said, I was probably one of the first ones, and then between 90 and 2000, there was a handful. John Stafford, Mike Ruggiero. See, right now I got to stop and think, because there weren't that many that, and it wasn't so much of a recruiting standpoint as it was, you know, them going to school or a job in the area of something like that. But it was still, for lack of a better word, we're going to say it's recruiting, but it wasn't really until the 2000s when Louis said that he wanted to produce the all-time best lifters ever. And that's when he started looking outside to bring more people into Westside. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think people forget that there was 30 years, maybe 20, 25, 30 years before that even happened. You know, where it was all just people from Columbus outside of his garage or outside of a really shitty small gym, and then the gym that we trained in, where it was all organically grown within the same town. So let's just go up until, you know, that time period, to where there was just a few people that moved and came in to train at Westside. I don't believe there's another gym in the history of gyms that have produced just what Louis did before people started to move to come train there. And it was also a good thing that people started to move to come train there, because it wasn't always a gym where there was 20 or 30 lifters in it like people think it was. I can remember multiple occasions sitting in the morning with myself, Louie, Chuck Vogelpool, and Kenny Patterson, and maybe one other guy, and us realizing, fuck, this is it. This is all we got. And then Louie asking us, do you guys know anybody who's kind of strong that's training at World Gym or some other gym? And then we kind of put feelers out to see if we could get anybody to be able to come in, because it was it. I mean, you'd have 10, 15, maybe 20 guys. The next thing you know, there's 5. Or you get people who, would come in and they couldn't last a week. I mean, that happened quite a bit too. So a lot of people just couldn't handle the commitment that it took to be there as well. But it wasn't the recruiting, and Louie, to develop the reputation, let's put it that way. He didn't have to use recruiting to develop the reputation of the gym. The reputation of the gym was well established before any of that started to begin with. Part of some of the other things about Westside when I was there that I don't think people truly understand is the commitment that it took to be able to be there. So it had to be, let me step back because I don't want to.